Cyberpunk 2077 is about being cool. The music is awesome, the setting kick-ass. I'm really trying to play this as a badass, but it's difficult when you drive like a drunk old lady that's in a souped up car too hot to handle. I literally laughed through this scene as I was genuinely trying to drive sensibly with a controller. From oversteering to curb jumping to missing my turns, it just isn't gangster. This, in a microcosm, is the problem with this game. It begs for immersion, but the systems, in this case the bad driving mechanics, minimap, unrealistic behavior from the pedestrians and wider world, keeps breaking the immersion, and the gameplay simply doesn't hold up as being fun or anything new. I at least got some entertainment value out of it, but I am concerned for what it was marketed and wrapped up to be in its presentation. This is a year and a half since the disaster of a release, and is surely the game in its finished state. I would argue that after the prologue you have seen everything the game has to offer. A pretty world is maybe all that it has, with a few NPCs that are interesting enough, and maybe the most impactful not lasting beyond the opening. It gives me very little motivation to continue the game. There are so many problems with this game. It doesn't know what medium it is. It is trying to be an interactive movie and can't help but take you out of the immersion by reminding you that it is a game at all points, with a constant flashing reminder that you can skip a scene. This reminder borders on insulting. Why not make the player aware of it at the start of the game and leave it to his or her own intelligence to make the choice? It also indicates a lack of belief that these dialogue and scenes are engaging enough for players to care. It doesn't do anything new as a game. The recent Deus Ex games with Adam Jensen does many of these aspects better, and he is a much cooler protagonist than V. If you're going to have a voice protagonist, I think it would have been better to have your character third person with a choice to go first in gunfight or at player's choice.
Caught some lead myself too.
Boo-hoo! Occupational hazard for you mercs.
Also found much of the dialogue less than edgy and lacks the maturity of Witcher. Do not let the age rating fool you either. This is not for mature adult audiences, but only offers cheap thrills. This is supposed to be an edgy cyberpunk world. The gameplay is severely lacking on all fronts. The hacking is boring, the driving is terrible, the weapon combat is lackluster. Outside of the main missions or side quests, do not bother to meaningfully interact with the world. This is no open world playground. Stick to the script or crack open the thin veneer of a lived-in space. The systems just aren't interesting enough to experiment with. Not even Keanu Reeves, aka Johnny Silverhand, can save this hugely disappointing game. It defies belief that it is the same CD Projekt Red from Witcher fame and is the final evidence for games not being made for gamers, once a level of success has been attained by a developer, but for target markets and financial stakeholders. This game is not worth £50 and I got it on a half price sale and still feel cheated. Whatever the demographic is that developers are targeting, there is very little hope that the AAA space will produce anything that is genuinely innovative and game changing. Pun intended. This game is nothing short of a betrayal of the years of goodwill built up between the fans of CD Projekt Red and their ultimate failure to resist the lure of the greenback. The irony here is that there was no reason for the unrealistic hype train the marketing produced. The Witcher 3 was all the hype that was needed. The support was already there. All that was required was a half-decent game, built with the same care for the gamers that all the Witchers previously achieved in spades. I am more convinced than ever that innovation and inspiration has a limited lifespan, no matter the genius behind it. Kojima, Miyazaki, Ken Levine is proof enough for me that brilliance has a shelf life. All that is eventually left after your heart and soul has been poured into innovation is incremental striving for past glories. Elden Ring, Death Stranding, Bioshock Infinite, and now Cyberpunk 2077 are epitaphs, the genuine past brilliance sincerely trying to be recaptured but ultimately proving to be in vain. Perhaps the reason might have more to do with vanity than greed, but I would argue that the dollars go a long way to suppress the pain of introspection and gives enough of a measure of false success that numbs the need to experience true failure that might just lead to salvation.
Name's V. And what? No, pleased to meet yous?